Hey gang, so really just a quick one, just to kind of get your thoughts going on this. And we as, I think we're small business owners, we as lobbyists, I guess, there may be some lobbyists looking at this, but us as voters need to start holding the UK government to account for their spending. It is ridiculous, and it is going to be our children that pick up the tab for this. And ultimately, and I hate to say it, that you've got the baby boom generation that's going to be going into retirement now, who have had the, loads of money, 80s, and loads of great things happening, massive house price rises. And that growth, it feels like the UK government's got hooked on that growth, and it feels like we're trying to keep on pumping cash into it. The UK public sector borrowing at the moment, and this is why I'm totally not politically, sided to one side or the other. This is the Conservative government who were completely reckless with their borrowing as well, and now we still completely recklessly with our borrowing. The income from taxes in the last 12 months was 1.1 trillion, and the government spend 1.2 trillion. That's a massive amount, that's billions, that we are overspending on our taxes. And our total amount of debt here, I was just looking at this today, is currently 2.8 trillion. And that's roughly the value of all of the stuff that we sell, our GDP, in the UK in a year. So basically, we owe an entire year's worth of revenue to other people. Now, if we are overspending by 1.2 trillion, we spend 1.2 trillion and we have got only 1.1 trillion coming in from income tax, then how are we ever going to get top of that unless at some point the confidence will break in borrowing and lending to the UK, and then our kids are going to be taking up the tab. And that's the problem. We are in a massive deficit, and we are literally making a place, putting chains around the future of our children's growth. Even if I think about my generation, I'm only 41, and so I've still got 20 years, that I'm going to be really productive in this. Should be my biggest wealth building years, and we're going to be in an ever more rocky position as a government, and we've got to get on top of it. We've got to stop overspending on all this bloody stuff. There are so many ways that we can stop spending. We're constantly talking about trying to raise taxes. Well, why don't we stop actually spending on stuff? Stop offering so much out into the world and reduce down the state, because at the moment it's just not working. We're just hooked on this very cheap money. Or we've got to do something to be able to entice other organisations here. And I talk about this quite a lot. The Irish government is got a 25 billion surplus this year. They've got 25 billion euros excess on their budget. And this is interesting because obviously Apple's paid some tax, right? Because they've convinced Apple to put their HQ there by having a tax break on them. Here's the crazy stuff, right? They have a beneficial for business tax system in Ireland. Everybody goes there to run their business, and then look at what happens. Actually, they do have to pay some tax, and then they've got a massive excess. And I know that this is just a year where Apple actually had to do a payment back to it, so it was a particularly good year. But usually the Irish run a surplus. I've looked at the budgets going back all the time, and they always have a surplus, right? So the department is forecasting a 12 billion surplus, and it just happened that the Apple one brought it up to 25 billion, right? So that's usual, right? They usually have a surplus running, and that's because they have been able to bring inward investment from overseas companies to be able to work within them because of their position within Europe and their position as a English-speaking country. So here's the thing. I really think that we need to put pressure as a small business, if whatever you can, to start saying, hey, actually, it's not right to keep on putting taxes up for small businesses. It's not right to putting taxes up for businesses. We need to bring those companies there. if you had Apple and Facebook and all the rest of it, they're headquartered in the UK, think of all the employment that makes. And then think about all the small businesses that get to go in, and as coaches and trainers, we get to go and coach their staff and be brought into them. As suppliers and service sector industries we bring in there, as hospitality and hotels and restaurants, think about all the revenue you would make from having such large organisations in our country. We've got to make ourselves more open for business, more open to these large companies, and it's not by taxing more, it's about taxing less to be able to have similar results like Ireland is boasting. So important that we think about this. So there you go, my thoughts, but unfortunately it's us and our children that are going to pay the debt, and there's lots to be answered for here.